Kia ora, and welcome to another tutorial from dakinane.com. In this tutorial we're going to continue in our work with animating in CoSpaces. In this particular tutorial we're going to be looking at using paths to animate objects along. There's a lot to get through, so let's get right into it. As you can see here, our waka is still bobbing on the ocean as we left it at the end of the last tutorial. And what we've got to do now is to actually get it to move through the ocean. And in a previous video we've looked at paths, but this time we're going to look at paths in a different way. We'll still attach the waka to a path, but we want to put people on the path. So let's have a look at how this is all going to work. What we're going to do here is just click back to our space. We've got the waka bobbing on the ocean. We're going to come down to the library and we're going to click on the special function here, and we're going to click on the path object here. What we need to look at is just zoom into this slightly, and I'm just going to double click on the path, and we can click on the path here and we've got some options. We can set the width, which is really good, and we'll look at that in a moment. It's currently curved. I like to give it a name, so let's call it waka path and close that, and it's in CoSpaces, yes. Now the reason why I've made the path nice and big is it shows the start and the end. So obviously we want our waka to start at the start and end at the end of our path. And I've made it nice and big so we can see the direction of the arrow. So the directions are pointing the arrow that our bow is working. If you find that that's not the right way you want it to be, you can click on this, double click, and you can click on path. And if you wish to, you can flip direction. So you can click flip direction like that, but we want it the way it was originally. So let's click on this. So let's just zoom out. Obviously I want my waka to start in the center here, so I'm going to attach the path. Each one of these paths are editable, so I'm just going to make a path. I'm going to drag that one under the center of the waka. Remember we made the X, Y, 0, 0 point. Well, that's where I want mine to start, in the center. I'm just going to drag this around, and I want to make my curves nice and smooth. We don't have sharp turns necessarily on the ocean, so I'm just going to click on this, make it a bit more, make the path a bit longer so you can see where it's going on the camera. I'm just making a circular path. You'll make one that's better than this to navigate your way around the ocean that you're going to make with islands, etc. But this is just to show how the path works. There's our path, and what we're going to do now is make sure it's ready to code. So if we look through this, click play, we're going to click on code now. So once we click on code, we're going to attach the waka to the path. My path and my waka need to be paired up. I need to attach them to each other. But let's just have a quick look at where the path is on the ocean. Let me just click on it. And you can see all the node points there, and I'm just going to show you that it actually sits on the surface of the ocean. That's important to remember that. What I want to do now is I move my waka slightly back. I put this point here, the starting point, in the center of where I thought the waka was going to be, and now I want to attach it to that. So I'm going to double click on my waka, and it says attach. And now I can choose the point, the node on the corner that I want it to attach to. I want it to attach to that one. Just click on center, and now it's moved back into the position I wanted it to be in. If we click on play, we'll see the waka's roughly where I wanted it to be, which is good. And now we can code this. So we're going to come up to code, and we're ready to add a new CoBlocks block. We want this one to be happening all the time, but we also want the waka to move along the path, and that's a separate block of code. So we'll click on a new tab, click on this, make a new CoBlocks tab. It's very straightforward bit of coding here. We want to use the transform block. I'm going to click on this one here, and we want to move waka on path. So we're going to use this one here, and obviously it's moved not the waka path on the waka path. We want to move the waka on the waka path forward in a certain number of seconds. This is when it becomes important to name all your objects. If that had just been Tinker OBJ number 1 and Tinker OBJ 2, you'd get confused. So naming is very, very important of all the objects that you put. Otherwise that would just been path 1, path 2, etc. But we know it's the path we want the walker to be on, and you'll see why that's important in a moment. So we want to move forward, and we're going to choose a speed. Now obviously the shorter the amount of time and the longer the path, the faster the object's going to go. So I'm just going to make this 15 seconds, but I suspect that's going to be pretty unrealistic in terms of speed. We'd want it to go much slower than that, but for the purposes of this tutorial, we'll just pick 15. So I'm just going to click on this and then click play. Let's have a look how that works. So now our object's away and the other code is working, so it's dipping and moving around on the ocean. It's moving too quickly, you can see it moving around there. So it's looking like a much more realistic animation. And that's pretty good. To make our walker even more realistic, we need to add people to the walker. Obviously, the walker didn't navigate the oceans empty. They were navigated by people. So what we need to do now is we need to come back to our library down here. We're going to click on library. Let's just close over here. And let's just make sure we can see what we're doing. Yes. Come back to characters. Now these characters aren't brilliant, but they are characters that we can use. And if you can download other characters that you think are more appropriate from a different 3D library, then do so. But for purposes of illustration, I'm just going to drag one of these characters out here. And I'm going to drag Casual Boy here, as he's known, out into the scene. And I want to attach him, just like I attached the walker to the path. But let's see what happens when we do. I want to make sure the Casual Boy character is on the walker. So let's just put him on the walker. So I'm going to use these tools. I'm going to drag him to scale, and I'm going to use this tool here to move him around. See if I can put him on the deck. So at the moment he's not in the deck, so I just need to raise him up. And let's just zoom in a little bit and see. Yeah, he looks pretty good. I'll make him turn. Let's just zoom out a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Make him turn. There we go. Now if I clicked play now, just click play, and because the walker's animated and attached to the path, Casual Boy here looks like he's on the deck of the walker, but he doesn't know what to do in CoSpaces, and CoSpaces doesn't know what to do with him. So what we need to do is come back to here. First of all, we need to make sure that come into here, double click on Casual Boy. We need to make sure he's in CoSpaces. Yes. And there's all kinds of things that we can do. Standing might be a bit tricky. What we can do down here is we can click on animation, and we can click on postures. Click on postures. I think kneeling is one down here somewhere. Let's have him kneel. There we go. So we've now got Casual Boy kneeling on the deck. Let's just move him around so he's a bit more realistic. Let's have him back here possibly. There he is on the deck. All right. So now that's looking good. If I wanted to attach him, so double click on this, and I can attach him. I want to attach him to the walker. What the walker's going to do is going to try and attach it to the very top. Obviously he's not going to sit on top of the mast. I want him to sit on the deck, but there are no other nodes in my model for him to sit on. I don't want him to sit on the path because he'd be at the ocean level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this current path and then raise it a certain amount of the distance above the ocean, so it's level with the deck level of the walker. Now I've changed the orientation here, so we're looking at the walker and the path from above. And what I want to do first of all is just duplicate this whole setup. So I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to click on duplicate. And what that does is it duplicates everything. So obviously we don't want two walker, but we do want the second path. So I'm just going to click on this second walker and delete it. But I want to click on this second path and I want to rename it. Walker path 1, that's good. Now what I want to do is at the moment I just want to make it a little bit off center from, so I'm going to move all these nodes so it's just on the outside, because what I've got here is Casual Boy sitting just off center of the path. So I'm just trying to make this path a little bit just on the outside of the walker path, and you'll see why in a minute. I don't want him to be in the center, because if he stays in the center he'll look like he's moving around the walker. So we've got two versions of the path here. Might be some interesting effects around here. Just make that look like that. Now what I want to do now is come down to here, and this is a bit tricky. We're going to come in and I want to lift the walker path up, and I want it to lift it there. The line is just above the path. Now I can attach Casual Boy. Click on this and click on attach, and I can attach him to this path here. So now he's attached to the path, and we can make him move at the same pace. So click on code. I'm going to make another tab. So this one here, click on tab, CoBlocks here, transform, and we want to move Casual Boy on walker path 1 in the same time interval as the previous path, 15 seconds. Let's just close this. Let's look at play, and now we should see Casual Boy moving with the walker on that second path. Let's click play. There we go, and we've now got Casual Boy on the walker, and you saw him slip inside and out of the cabin there because the path had a bit of an overlap. You can tweak that, but he looks pretty good on there. And so you've now got people on your walker traveling your ocean, navigating it by using paths. Thanks for watching and for making it this far through the video. I really appreciate your support. Until the next time, Matiwa.